Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I will be doing a tutorial on how I make the bare bones of my embellishment books. Some of you ladies have asked that I do a tutorial. I have a couple posted on my Instagram. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, go over and check out some of the previous embellishment books that I've made. So this is just the bare bones one that I have started. No decorations, just all my pages are matted and I'm ready to go. And if you can't tell, this is basically just a mini album, but I use it for my embellishments. Okay, so first thing is the list of things that you need. So you'll need some cardstock, some chipboard, I'm sorry. And this piece of chipboard I got from Michael's. It's the Recollections brand. It's one of the it's in one of those open stock bins on the cardstock aisle. I use 110 pound cardstock, and this is 8.5 by 11 cardstock. And you will need some designer paper or whatever paper you're going to use to mat or use for your pages. Okay, so first things first. My mini album is 5 by 7, and I have a 1.5 inch spine. So it's 5 by 7 and a 1.5 inch spine. So you're gonna need to cut your cardstock into 2 pieces of 5 by 7 and then 1 piece that is 1.5 by 7. My guillotine. So 5 by 7, 5 by 7, and I do one, keep the straightest edge. I do 1.5 by 7. Alright, so you can get rid of those scraps, place them to the side, you won't need them. So the next thing I do is I cut the base covering for my flipbook. So I keep one sheet at 8.5 by 11. But then I cut a sheet at 8.5, so 7, and I keep it at 8.5 height, I guess you can say now. It's the, so 8.5 by 7. Okay, put that scrap to the side. You will also need one 6.75 sheet by 11. And you will need four 10 by 6.75 sheets. So 6.75 by 10. Use this edge. Okay. Alright. And then using one of your scrap pages that you already cut, you're also going to need a 2 by 6.75 piece. And a 1.5. Just the straightest edge. By 6.75 piece. And these two pieces are for your spine. Okay. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and score my spine. So our spine is 1.5 inches in width, but you want to give yourself a little bit of space for the front and the back pages of your spine. So I use a 2-inch piece, and I score at 0.5 from both ends. So 1.5 going inward and 0.5 going inward. Okay. And then I also score at 1 inch, and that will help me later on when it's time to align things. So I will go ahead and fold in the leftmost and the rightmost tab and miter those corners. Okay. Alright, so this is your 2 by 6.75 inch. So then I'll take my 1.5 by 6.75 inch and score this at 0.5 and 1 inch. So every ½ inch. Fold in the edges and miter the corners. All right. So we are done scoring. So I go ahead and take some double-sided tape and I add it to both sides of these flaps. Okay, so you are going to remove the tape from the back of this part and center it on that score mark we made at the 1 inch mark of the 2 by 6.75 piece. So I'm just going to eyeball it to center it. Make sure it's lined up and just press it down. Alright. So that is your spine. And you have tape on each page for each piece for the page to stick to. Okay. So let's get back to the actual book. So you have your 2 5x7 pieces and your 1.5 by 7 piece. Alright, so what I do is I take my 8.5 piece, 8.5 by 11, and I lay it down. Then I take my 7 by 8.5 and I overlap it underneath the bib. And when it overlaps, I try to get this second page to be the halfway point of my book, if that makes sense. So right now I have it laid out to be 14 inches worth of space to work with. So then I line up, I lay down these pieces and make sure my pages are lined up. And I try to put the spine right. I try to center the spine where the second underneath page is. So, can't really see. And I adjust the main portions, the back and front cover of the book, to be as far apart as I need. And I make sure that all of this is even. So to attach the front and back cover, I'm going to use wet glue. You can use any glue that you like, but I'm just going to use my wet glue. So I know that once it's down, it's down. And I'm using my mat as a guide, so the edge of this lines up with the lines up here. Okay, so now I have everything creased down. Alright. So then what I do next is I'm going to add my spine to my book. So I'm just going to add some double-sided tape to this and then stick it down. Okay, so now I have attached my spine. Everything is in there. In doing this, I've realized that I've been saying the right measurement, but cut the wrong measurement for this middle piece that is used to cover the exposed chipboard underneath. I cut mine to 6.75 by 11, and it should be 7 by 11. And the difference is that it gives you more edge-to-edge coverage with that extra 1/4 inch up here. But it's not a big deal. Okay, so I also realized that in my process, I usually score my we will be adding. So get your 4 pieces of 10 by 6.75, and I score them at 5 inches. And this just helps the pages fold over these flaps that we made. Right? So, just going to reinforce the fold for each. And again, this is 110-pound cardstock. I like to use this because I like my pages to feel sturdy, but you can always use your designer paper or just regular cardstock. It doesn't have to be 110-pound cardstock. This is just my preference. I like to use a solid, heavier cardstock and then mat my designer paper in the middle. But if you're using designer paper, then you just cut it 10 by 6.75, fold it, and boom, you have your pages there. Okay. So another step that I do is I add tape to the bottom of one of the pages, because when we put this on, we will be attaching the sheets this way along this long edge, and you don't want your pages to be open at the bottom. If you want to, you can seal both the bottom and the top, but if you only do one edge, then you're left with a pocket that you can tuck things into. You can tuck goodies, or you can tuck anything into it. Just, you would want it to be flat so you can keep your pages pretty consistent as far as sizing goes. Or thickness, I'm sorry, as far as thickness goes. So I'm going to add some tape to the bottom of each of these pages. And you can always make the pages as if you want the pocket at the top. And then if you decide you don't want the pocket, just go in with some glue, just a little bit of glue at the top to seal it. Alright. So I'm going to take my book and one of the pages, and wherever the double-sided tape is, I know that's going to be the bottom of my page. So what I do is I fold the other flaps down, and I peel back the tape from the one that I'm actually adding the page to. I do one side at a time. Peel back, and then I take the edge of the paper and I line it up with that score line that we have. It's hard to see here, but I line it up with the score line. And press it down. And then take this tape off, this covering for the tape off, and expose the tape at the bottom. And just fold it down over itself. And now you have a thick, sturdy page. And the bottom is at here, and you also have a pocket up here. But like I said, if you don't want the pockets, you can adhere them at the beginning, or if at the end you decide you don't need the pockets, just add a little glue, wet glue, and hold them down. So there's your page. You can always add your pages before you put the middle part into the book, but I personally like to wait until the end to do this, because this allows me to make sure that all my pages are the same height, and that I didn't do anything funky beforehand. You have all of your pages for your book. So you basically have the bones for your book completed. So, for the cover and outside. For the cover, you are going to need 2 pieces that are 6 by 7.5 by 4.7.5. So I use 2 of these for the cover. And for your spine, I need to reinforce that with just a little bit of glue. You will use 1.5 by 6.75. And then for the inside, it would also be one of these 6.5 6.75 by 6.75 by 4.75. And for your pages, you will use a mat that is 6.5 by 4.75, because remember our pages are 5 by 6.75. So I just create a 1/4 inch border for each page, and you just glue them and have mats for your book. So once you add all of your page mats and your covering, you will have something that looks like this. And you can see you don't see any of the overlap that's here. You don't see that overlap. You don't see that. Once you cover it up, it's as good as gone. You don't see any of the paper and the inside. You don't see any of that. So you don't see these lines that we have here. You don't see any of those. Your spine covers the inside, overlapping. And your mats are there. This is how it will look in place. And this book doesn't have the pockets. I sealed those up. And the paper that I used is just the Valentine's Hot Buy paper. But yeah, so here is the bare bones embellishment book. It can be a flip book, embellishment book, whatever you need it for. It's nice and sturdy. Pages flip nicely. You just have to be aware that whatever you put on your first and last page shouldn't be super dimensional, because it can get squished depending on how much room you left between your middle, like the flanges where the pages were attached, how much room you left between that and the front cover. So this book here, it's kind of close. So whatever I put here, it can't be two-dimensional. But on the book that we made in this video, I left extra space. So we should be good to go if I were to put something more dimensional there. So you just have to be the judge of what you can and can't fit in here. Alright, well, thank you for watching. Please leave any comments below, any questions below. And that's it. Thank you.